Welcome back, Bluegrass Sports fans, to Bluegrass Sports Podcast, episode number 9. And today we have several things to talk about. Sports throughout the Bluegrass. We got football, basketball, baseball talk. But just to give you a quick overview of what we're doing, we are going to go through the Louisville Kings and how they fell to 0-3. I'll have a lot to talk about on that because I stayed up and watched the game, and that was just ridiculous. But then since we're on the football topic, we'll talk about Kentucky commits and Louisville commits because I know Will Stein and Jeff Brom have been cooking recently.
Kentucky got a huge one today.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that when the time comes. And then we will dive into some college baseball. And then we will dive into the transfer portal talk for all teams in the Bluegrass. Last episode, we just talked about Kentucky and Louisville, but this episode, we're going to involve more of the smaller schools that are in the state of Kentucky. But before we do all that, first, my name is Drew Keesee.
My name is Tyler Cade, University of Kentucky analyst.
And as you can see, we are still missing DJ. Now, like we said in the last episode, he is still in Japan. He's actually, he flew back from Japan. He's like in Hawaii. And now he's got to go to Atlanta? Yeah.
He's Atlanta and then come back here. Yeah.
He's everywhere. So he's not going to make it on this episode. But good news to the Bluegrass Sports Podcast fans. We will have a special guest to replace DJ just for this episode. It's our good friend Zach. And he will join us shortly after we talk about everything else.
Yep.
So to kick things off, let's talk about the Louisville Kings. And when I say I was beyond frustrated with how this game ended, I was beyond frustrated, right? So when it comes to the stats, they're now 0-3. They lost 29-27 in overtime. And it was just a great game, back and forth game between the Orlando Storm and the Louisville Kings. And when you look at the player stats, Jason Bean, right? Jason Bean, he was struggling at first. I'm not going to lie. He didn't look like the greatest quarterback in the first half. But whenever the second half came along, he played really well. He had 23 completions on 46 attempts, so he was really slinging that rock. He had 352 yards and 3 touchdowns. His QB rating was 97, but that's really good. That is really good QB rating. And then you can see a little trick play, and you had Lucky Jackson have a passing completion for 26 yards. That was nice to see and watch. But when you get into the rushing stats, big praises for Benny Snell Jr. for the Louisville Kings. He had 12 attempts on 50 yards. That's by far his best game in the UFL so far. And he averaged about 4 yards per carry, which it was fun to see him break loose. I haven't seen him do that since like 2019. So, watching Benny Snell football in the Big 2-6, it's awesome, man. It's really great. And then Jason Bean was the other rusher during the game with 14 yards on 3 attempts. But the receiving, okay, so Isaiah Winstead, he had 114 yards. I would consider him being the number one receiver. I know Lucky Jackson is to some people, but Isaiah Winstead is the number one option with 114 yards. He played really well. And I want to shout out to Zach Davidson, the tight end, number 84. He played an amazing game. He stepped up in the second half. He caught 2 touchdowns, and he had 79 yards. And Lucky Jackson, that was behind him, he had 1 yard less than Davidson with 78. So Lucky Jackson had 78 yards. And he did get a touchdown. I'm sorry. He had 1 touchdown. So Lucky Jackson had 78 yards with a touchdown. They played really well. It was back and forth. Amazing game from Lucky Jackson and Davidson. The defense just couldn't stop the Storm. It was just back and forth. Offenses were battling. And let me just get started on the overtime. So with the UFL, obviously we're all new to this in the Bluegrass. It's the first time Louisville's ever had a professional football team. I'm used to college basketball. I'm used to college football and NFL rules when it comes to overtime. Well, in the UFL, teams have a shootout, a 2-point conversion shootout. And it's basically the best of 3, and then once each team doesn't convert on any 3 of those tries, it's basically next scored wins. Well, Benny Snell went out there as captain, and he got the first pick on whether the Kings wanted offense or defense. He selected offense. Me personally, I would select the defense. That's normally what you do in the NFL rules. You would want, since you're going to get the ball too, you'd want to see what the other team does first. Well, Benny Snell decided to take the ball, which, I mean, that's fine if you're confident in offense, which I know how he is. He's very confident in his team, and they took the ball, but they went 0 for 3 on their first 3 attempts, but so did the Orlando Storm. And so after that, it was basically just like whoever scores would basically win the game. Well, when I kid you not, Bluegrass Sports fans, the Kings were this close to winning the game. And Jason Bean rolled out to his left, and Benny Snell Jr. was wide open in the end zone. And when I tell you, when he was wide open, there was nobody around him. Everybody was focusing on Jason Bean rolling out. And Jason Bean kind of hit him late, could have hit him a little earlier, but he still got the ball to Benny. And he just tossed it up to Benny. Benny snagged it. Like, it was about to go out of bounds. He snagged it, brought it in. The whole stadium thought he scored. I thought he scored from the TV. I was standing like this in my living room, like, touchdown, right? And then I see the refs going, no, he's out. And I'm like, what do you mean he's out? Benny Snell Jr. had every bit of his body in the end zone except his pinky toe. Like, the last little toe. It was. I mean, I'm talking this close. He was out. That broke my heart. So it was hard to watch. I'm not gonna lie, because I thought Benny Snell just scored the touchdown for the first ever Kings victory, and it was incomplete because his one toe was out. That was just so sad to watch. And then I was like, okay, defense got to get going. Like I said, they've been iffy all game, but this is where everything unfolds. The UFL has a rule where, let me just read the rule to you guys. If the defense commits a second live ball penalty during the overtime period, the offense is automatically awarded 2 points and wins the game. See, as a new viewer of the UFL, I didn't know this. I didn't know this at all. And when I'm watching, obviously PIs happen in college football, they happen in the NFL. I'm used to them. Normally, it's either spot of the foul or half a distance to the goal, right? Or whatever the rules are. When they said the Storm won the game and the game was over because of the PI, I was like, for real. Like, I was like, what? How can you end a game on a penalty? Like, that is ridiculous. And, I was reading the comment sections on the UFL pages, the Kings pages. I even commented on the Kings pages. Yeah, that was just ridiculous. And I was looking at the Storm comments and everything. Throughout the UFL, every fan base was just calling it crazy. Like, there's no way a football game should end that way. There's no way a football game should end on a penalty. I understand why. I think it was one of the reporters for the UFL, an analyst that works at the UFL or something. He was explaining the rule and why they do it to the fans after the game. He was basically saying they wanted the game to be over with in a nicer way, not just like that. But they basically wanted the game to be over with to prevent player injury. They didn't want to overlasting overtime where somebody could get hurt, and they're just really precautious about all of that, which, if you ask me, I think that's stupid, because I want to watch football, especially if it's a back and forth overtime game. I want to see somebody put it in the end zone. But that's the UFL rules. So just because the Kings got 2 PIs in overtime, the Storm was able to convert the 2 points. They were rewarded the 2 points, and they got the win because of it. Tyler, what do you think about that?
That's ridiculous. I think. Now, I mean, I know we're new to the UFL. There's a lot to get used to. We're the new team. Just now coming in. But I don't like the rules. There's a lot of rules like that in the UFL that they're iffy. I mean, which I think they want it to be like that. They want it to be different from college football and NFL. But why? I just don't understand how a game can end off of 2 penalties, because penalties happen all the time, right? I mean, so you're telling me, is it 2 penalties in general, Drew, or is it like pass interference penalties? Do you
I
know
thought
that?
I thought that it was pass interference. My bad. I
Okay.
thought it
I
was
don't
pass
know.
interference.
I really don't.
But what I read earlier, um, I'm rereading it again. It says if the
Hmm.
defense commits a second live ball penalty, so it could be anything. It could be roughing the passer. It could be holding,
See,
pass
I don't
interference.
understand that, because penalties happen like a lot. I mean, I get
That's
it,
football.
but like, I don't think you can end it off of a penalty. That's the worst way to end a game. The
I agree
worst
with you.
way. Like, I don't think there could be a worse outcome than ending the game off of a penalty. I think the team should deserve to, they need to score to win,
They need
right?
to put the ball in the end zone.
Yes.
See, the UFL, I do agree with this. They don't do field goals. They try to limit special teams, which is, I mean, fine. It's just
Yeah.
different. It's more entertaining football. Like the rule where if the team gets past the 50-yard line, they can't punt. They got to go for it. That's
I do like
entertaining.
that rule. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like I'm not gonna lie, but the whole if you get 2 penalties on defense, you lose the game. That's bogus.
I don't
I've never
understand
seen
it.
nothing like that. Now, obviously, the whole point of the UFL is just to be different. They try to put teams in cities that don't have an NFL team. So like,
Which is
they
good.
have well, I mean they have a Houston team, but they have Louisville, they have Orlando. Orlando doesn't have an NFL team. That's a big city. They have St. Louis as a city. That's a big city as well. And then I mean they have Birmingham and then DC. But I mean they have the Washington Commanders. I guess they did sneak a few teams into cities with NFL teams, but their whole goal is to try. I seen they just expanded to Oklahoma City. Actually, Oklahoma City just
Did they
got a team
really?
for next season.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I guess they're really just trying to branch out
Yeah.
and find cities that don't have NFL teams. Like I said, their whole goal is to be different. But I don't think like we just said. I agree with the I agree with the 50-yard line where you can't punt. I agree with limiting special teams and making football more entertaining and fun with offense. But I don't think a game should end on penalties. I think that's ridiculous. And I might be biased Kings fan, but I mean, as a football fan, let's just say a sports fan. As a football fan, as a sports fan, I don't think a game should end on a penalty with any sport, but really football, especially if it's back and forth, like I said.
I agree, because football's like, it's obviously a lot harder to score than a lot of sports. I mean, like basketball, and I'd say basketball is probably the easiest sport to get a point in.
Hmm.
But yeah, with football, like, that's the dumbest way to end a game.
I agree with you. I was seeing red. I'm
I'm
not
trying
gonna
to,
lie.
yeah, I'm trying to look up the other overtime rules. I'm just not familiar with any of like the deep rules. You know what I mean?
Like I said, they're just different. It's not like college football. It's not like
Yeah.
NFL. It's a professional league, but it's just different. They're just different from everybody. But if you want to, are you going to mention any of the rules? Because I was going to mention their schedule and then move on.
I mean, you covered everything. Uh, so if you just want to talk about the schedule, because
Okay, you said you pulled it up, so I didn't know if you were going to talk about it.
I did, but
But
you covered everything there.
okay, all right. Well, when we're looking ahead with the Louisville Kings schedule, sadly they fell to 0-3. So hopefully next week they get their first win. Now I was really hoping they would get their first win at home, but I don't
That
know if they
one,
win. If I mean, it still could happen, but if they win week 4. They play the Houston Gamblers. They travel to Houston. They play them Thursday night, actually, at 8 o'clock. So you can find them. I don't know if it's on Fox or not. It just says NFL Network. So, let's see. It says you can find them on NFL Network. So they're traveling to Houston to play the Houston Gamblers. They'll play Thursday at 8 o'clock, and you can find them on NFL Network. And if you can't find a way to keep up with them, then follow us on socials to get their live update stats and scores. Ty, do you want to mention our socials and what it is to the fans?
Yeah, it's BG Sports Podcast on all the social media platforms: Instagram, X, Threads. I'm missing one. Instagram, X, Threads, TikTok. TikTok is our main platform that we're kind of shooting for right now, and then all our streaming sites that will have every single full podcast, I guess, is YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, sorry, Amazon Music, and Facebook.
Okay. So if you want to follow us on there and to stay updated with your favorite teams, go right ahead. We got you. We'll always be posting, talking. We'll be posting reels and clips and, sending GIFs and commenting and reposting, doing every little thing you could think of, we'll be doing it.
Yes.
So if you're really wanting to follow up with your team and you don't have a way to do it, stay connected to us, follow us, subscribe, like, whatever you could do. It will help us out. We appreciate every little support that you can give us.
Our goal is to try to get the information as quick as possible to you and talk in depth on these episodes that we're covering every Sunday.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And now since we're on the football topic, like I just said in the brief overview earlier, we're going to try to talk about a few commits for the top schools right now. Maybe if we learn more about the smaller schools when it comes to football, we'll do that. But right now, we're kind of just going to stick to Louisville and Kentucky when it comes to football. So we're just going to be talking about just a few commits for each school. I'm only going to be talking about one for Louisville, and then Ty has 2 or 3 for Kentucky he could talk about.
Yeah.
So to start out, I know this was a little bit of a go, but I'm just going to bring it up. Louisville's own Jahide Brown. He was a wide receiver at Cal. He's 5'11", 175, and like I said, he's from Louisville. And he originally committed to Alabama to Kurt Signetti, then he decommitted, then he flipped to Louisville. So that's something to look out for. He is the 5th player in the state of Kentucky, and he is in the top 300 in the nation. And just a little more information about him. He caught a state best 98 passes for over 1,500 yards and 24 touchdowns. And he led his high school, which was Cal, Christian Academy in Louisville. He led them to a perfect record and a state championship. So congratulations to the Cards for landing him. I know both Kentucky and Louisville were going after him, but that is huge for Jeff Brom and the Cards. I think Vince Morrow had a lot to do with that commitment, but that's an exciting wide receiver. In-state talent. They also, in the transfer portal not too long ago, they got Montavian Quisenberry that played at Bull County. He was at Kentucky this past year, and then he transferred to Louisville. So, that's 2 in-state wide receivers that are really talented, and I think Louisville can do a lot with them in the future. So that's all I have for Louisville, because we don't really have DJ to dive deeper. That's the only big one that I know of. But since we have Ty here, he's going to talk about a few of Kentucky commits and where they're from, what they do, how good they are, and So Ty, take it ahead.
Yeah. So this is the 2027 to 2028 football class for Kentucky. So here's what we know and who's committed. I'm going to start out with the smaller commits, the three-star commits, which not small, but we have a huge commit that I have to tell you about in just a second. Now, first we have cornerback 3-star Miguel Wilson. We have 3-star linebacker Ty Ashley, and we have 3-star O lineman Brady Hull. Those are huge commits for Will Stein, getting them early, which is a great sign. I think he seeks his talent early and tries to find the commits, like their junior year of high school to try to persuade them to Kentucky. Will Stein's a great developer, and obviously we know he's one of the best quarterback developers in the country. We saw that with him at Oregon. I believe he has 3 quarterbacks that are playing in the NFL or that he's put in the league. So that's huge news. And, this is where I come to a 4-star commit that Kentucky landed today. That is the number 2 quarterback in the 2027 class, Jake Nallright. That is huge for Kentucky. Like actually huge news, because I don't know if Kentucky's ever gotten this high of a quarterback commit. I know they haven't, actually, because right? There's no way. At least not in my lifetime. I mean,
I don't know if it had to been Tim Couch was out of high school.
But not the number 2, right?
Okay, hold on. Okay, so it says as of April 12th, which is today, it says 4-star quarterback, the one that Kentucky got just now.
Yeah.
Is it Jake Nallright?
Nallright.
Nallright? Okay.
Yeah.
He is Kentucky football's highest ranked high school quarterback commit in the recruiting website era.
So that's huge news. I mean,
yeah,
gives Kentucky football fans something to look forward to, as hasn't been great the past few years. I'd say since about 2022 is whenever it started going downhill again, which, not saying anything negative about Mark Stoops, because he changed the program for the better. But with Will Stein coming in, brings in a huge recruit. Now I can't stress to you how big this is for Kentucky. Now, we'll see what happens with it. Not much more to say other than props to Will Stein.
So obviously there will be more commitments in the future, but that's kind of all we have right now. So that's just a preview of what you're going to see on this channel with commitments and everything with football and just in all sports in general. I think we're not really going to post baseball commitments unless, somebody lands like the best of the best. But it's kind of easier to follow basketball and football commitments, so that's what we're going to do here. But since we're done with talking about football commitments and football in general, we are going to move on to college baseball. I will give you all a rundown of Murray State, EKU, WKU, and Louisville, and Ty will take it away with the Kentucky Batcats. So, to start things off, you have the Murray State Racers. They played Tuesday against Bellarmine. I think we mentioned in our last podcast episode, we did record on a Tuesday, so most of the games are already happening for that week. That Murray State and Bellarmine did play each other. It's an in-state game, and Murray State did take the win against Bellarmine 8-7. And then they traveled to Chicago against UIC, and they did get swept, sadly. So you have the Murray State Racers. They lost their game against UIC Friday. They lost 1-3, which was close. And then you have their Saturday game. They lost 2-8. And then you have their Sunday game, and they lost 5-10. So obviously it's never good when you get swept. It's just unfortunate for the Racers. We're going to look ahead to see what they have next week. And next week they have Southeast Missouri. They play on Tuesday at 4. And you can find them on ESPN Plus, it says. So if they are playing on ESPN Plus and you can't catch them anywhere, follow us on socials. We do post their final score if they win. And then looking ahead for their weekend series, they play Illinois State at Murray State, so they're at home, and they play Friday at 5, Saturday at 2, and Sunday at 1. And you can find all those games on ESPN Plus. So hopefully the Murray State Racers can have a better week than they did this week, and we'll be keeping up with them, and we'll keep you all updated. So now we're going to move on to EKU baseball. This past week, they traveled to Nashville to play Vanderbilt, which is an SEC school. That's never going to be an easy game, but they did compete. They just lost 0-3, so they lost that game. And then, unfortunately for the EKU Kerns, they got swept as well. So far, not a good week for Bluegrass baseball.
No, it's not been.
They played at home in Richmond. They played Bellarmine on Friday, and they lost 5-10. And Saturday and Sunday was more of like an offensive gauntlet for both teams. Saturday they lost 10-14, and on Sunday they lost 9-11. So they were competitive. They just couldn't get the win, and that was an in-state series. So congratulations to the Bellarmine Knights for winning that series, but it's unfortunate for the Kerns, the teams that we're covering. Now looking ahead, they have another in-state game on Tuesday. They play Kentucky State in Richmond. So hopefully they can turn around and win that game during the week. And then for their weekend series, they play Central Arkansas. All these games will be on ESPN Plus. They play Friday at 7, they play Saturday at 5, and they play Sunday at 2. So if you want to catch them on ESPN Plus, go right ahead. If you can't find a way, follow us on socials, and we got you. Now, for WKU baseball, it's looking a little better. There's more W's, so that's good. You have them playing Belmont on Tuesday this past week, and they won 9-8. So congratulations to WKU for getting that home victory. And then you have them traveling. Actually, they didn't travel anywhere. They played at home. Excuse me. You have New Mexico State coming to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and WKU, the Tops, won this series. So the Tops won their first game on Friday, 7-3. Then they won Saturday as well, 9-4. But they dropped their win today against New Mexico State. They lost 7-10. So they lost the final game of the series. But they won Friday and Saturday. So congratulations to the WKU Tops for winning their series this weekend. As we look ahead, we have the Tuesday game. They will play Louisville at Jim Patterson Stadium. So that'll be an interesting game because both these teams are pretty good. And then for their weekend series, they'll travel to Springfield, Missouri, and play Missouri State. You can catch them on ESPN Plus as well. They'll play Friday at 6:30, Saturday at 2, and Sunday at 1. So we'll keep you all updated with WKU. And then moving on to Louisville. Now, you had Kentucky and Louisville play each other on Tuesday. It was a very close game, back and forth, I would say. But the Batcats did get the victory, 4-2, as Ty will talk about that game more. And then you have Stanford coming to Louisville, and unfortunately Louisville did lose that series. Friday they lost 2-12, which is not good. And then you have Louisville beating Stanford 10-0, which is the complete opposite of what happened on Friday. And then Sunday was more of a competitive game, which is what baseball fans want to see. Louisville did take the loss 4-6, dropping the series at home to Stanford. And looking ahead, you have, like I just mentioned, WKU on Tuesday at 6, and then you have the Louisville Cardinals traveling to Cal, all the way in Berkeley, California, to play against Cal. I still think it's ridiculous that California is in the ACC when they're right next to the Pacific Ocean, but geography doesn't matter in college sports anymore.
It never will.
Yeah,
Again,
it's all about money.
Yeah.
You have Cal and Louisville playing on Friday at 9 p.m. Then you have them playing Saturday at 5, and you have them playing Sunday at 4. And it looks like all this will be on ACC Network, so you should be able to watch it, but if you can't, follow us on socials, and we got you. So that will be it for Louisville, as Ty will take it away with Kentucky baseball.
Yeah, so as Drew mentioned earlier, Kentucky took the win over Louisville 4-2. Um, Louisville got up 1-0 in the first inning, and then Kentucky actually bounced back in the bottom of the fourth inning with 1 run. And then so it's tied 1-1 going into the sixth inning. Kentucky's able to pull away with 3 runs in the bottom of the sixth. And then Louisville almost made a comeback in the top of the ninth, but Kentucky turns a double play to end the inning, ending the game 4-2. So Louisville was really close to making a ninth inning rally, just couldn't do it. And that leads to Kentucky taking the win. Now, moving on to the weekend series against number 10 Auburn at number 10 Auburn. First game, the Cats go into Auburn, and unfortunately, let up 6 runs in the first inning on Friday. So the Cats got beat 5-12 in that game. Now, moving into Saturday, the Cats bounced back and got a 5-4 win, and against a number 10 team in the country, very good win. Now, so to end the day on Saturday, we're looking at a 1-1 series. Jumping into Sunday, the Cats take an unfortunate loss, 0-11. So, not great. Not a great look for the Cats. But I mean, they avoided the sweep. So, on positive news, trying to look at the positive side, the Cats avoid the sweep. However, they lose the series 1-2. And then I just want to talk about the series coming against Vanderbilt, which will be very important. They play on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in a 3-game series. And then following that series, Kentucky then travels to Louisville to play on the road. So
That'll be interesting for sure.
we'll see another Kentucky-Louisville matchup at Jim Patterson. So there's that. I believe that's all I have to talk about with Kentucky baseball for now.
So then we'll be moving on to college basketball. So now we're going to dive into some college basketball. And as you can see, we have our special guest here. He was our podcast Bracket Challenge winner. This is Zach. He will be filling us in on Louisville basketball intel since DJ is out. And so I'm going to dive into Murray State and EKU and WKU transfers, who is departing from their team, and then I'm going to let these two have at it with the bigger schools. So first, when we look at Murray State, you have your power forward Dylan Anderson. He hasn't committed. None of these guys committed yet. Actually, one has. I'm sorry, one has committed. You have your 4-star Dylan Anderson. He's a power forward, a 7-foot power forward. That's 215 pounds. He's redshirted. So once he commits, I'll let y'all know where he goes. You have Brock Weiss. He's a 3-star. He committed to Kansas State recently. He is a power forward that is 6'10 and 225. That is a junior. So you have Dylan and Brock. And then the last departure from Murray State, there's only 3. But his decision is expected to come soon, and that is Lane Taylor. He is a point guard, sophomore. He's 5'9 and 175 pounds. So his decision is expected to come soon. There's 2 uncommitted, 1 committed, one being to Kansas State, and that's Brock. So that is for Murray State. There's only 3 departures, so I mean, they just extended their coach down there. So keeping the roster together is probably one of the important jobs right now for that coach. So we'll keep it updated if there's anybody that's coming in. Now we have EKU. They had 3 departures as well. One being Tyler Jackson. He's a combo guard. He's a 4-star freshman. He's 6'2 and 152 pounds. Not committed. And we'll let y'all know where he goes. Then you have Jaden Harris being a shooting guard. He's a redshirt freshman. He's 6'7. A shooting guard that's 6'7. That's pretty nice. There's no stars next to his name, so I don't know what that would mean. But, yeah, he's transferring from EKU, and we'll let you know where he goes there. And then you have a transfer Montavious Merrick. Power forward, that's a senior, and he's 6'8", 3-star. So he's uncommitted as well, undecided. So all three of these are undecided. The 3 departures for EKU. We'll let y'all know where they go in our socials. So that is it for the Kerns, and now we will dive into WKU. So WKU has 2 departures. You have Louis Simona as a small forward junior. That's 6'8" and 205 pounds. He has no stars next to his name. None of these do. I don't know why. But he's transferred from Western, and it looks like he has 1 or 2 more years left, so we'll keep you updated where he goes. And then you have another forward in Noah Boyd. He is a senior, 7-foot power forward, and he's 230 pounds, no stars, undecided. So that is another departure for the tops. And that should be it for the tops when it comes to the portal. Now, for smaller schools, it's kind of less likely you see departures, but for bigger schools like Kentucky and Louisville, there's more speculation, targets, etc. So that's it for Murray, EKU, and WKU. We're now going to dive into Kentucky and Louisville, but we're going to let Ty go first with Kentucky basketball, and then we're going to let Zach here talk about some Louisville basketball. So Ty, take it away.
Yeah, so we already know about the departures and who's leaving for Kentucky. Now, let's get into who's committed, who's returning, and then top recruits that we're looking at. So the committed recruit, single committed recruit that we have is 4-star point guard Mason Williams. So that is the only true commit outside of the returnees, So here's who is confirmed to return. Malachi Marino, Cam Williams, and Trent Noah. Trent Noah announced this morning that he was going to return. And then, so here's where we get to the undecided. We have Jaden Quaintance and Braden Hawthorne, which I'll talk about Braden Hawthorne in a second. Jaden Quaintance, really, we're not sure. A lot of people expected him to already make his decision on declaring for the draft, but we see it's a potential possibility that he returns to Kentucky. I wouldn't say it's likely at all. I'd say 90% he's going to declare for the draft here soon, but it's an option, and hopefully Pope can get that done. And then Braden Hawthorne, he said, now I've seen people say Braden Hawthorne said he's coming back. He said he's coming back. Yes, he did say he's coming back, but that was before all the assistant coaches left. So with the new coaching staff, who knows what he's actually going to do, because he said that verbally. He did not officially announce his decision. So that's another thing.
Could you refresh me on do you know which coaches left? Or
yeah, so
not you don't got
you
not necessarily their names.
Alvin Brooks
like
and Jason
roles.
Hart.
Yes. And Jason Hart was the lead recruiter on every prospect.
That's probably what you're seeing here is your lead recruiters left, so you're a lot of players that you were in contact with. You're having to rebuild those connections.
And then also, it's important to note that Jason Hart was the lead recruiter on Tyron Stokes, and it's interesting to see that now that he's gone, Kentucky may have an edge on recruiting now that Keegan Brown is the new lead recruiter. Now we know that Keegan Brown has a fit system like that Mark Pope likes. So their kind of system is based on system fit over talent, if that makes sense. So instead of going out and getting the best guys, they believe in system fit as a team.
The complete opposite of Louisville basketball.
Yes. Yeah.
Basically,
yeah.
Which, if you could chuck threes, come play for us.
Which I do feel like Kentucky kind of went that direction last year, and now they're going away from it because they saw what happened this past year and didn't work out at all. So I think they tried to get the best talent in the portal possible. They got what they got. It didn't work out. So they're changing their game plan back to back to kind of Pope's first year and how that looked like. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, I do want to talk about the top targets right now. So Tyron Stokes is the top target for Kentucky. We all know that. Number one recruited player from high school. He is the absolute number one for Kentucky. They're going after him full force. Mark Pope is really trying to get him. Now, who knows what's going to happen? Like I said in the last episode, we don't know. Now, what I do want to say is Tyron Stokes planned to visit to Kentucky, and he actually arrived on campus today and has a visit tomorrow along with Rob Wright. So that's a huge look. So that's a point guard from BYU who very good player, very good. So I will tell you, if you're a Kentucky fan, you want Rob Wright. And I think a Rob Wright and Tyron Stokes duo would go very well together.
I'm hearing rumors. I'm not sure how true this is. You never know how true anything is in recruiting news, so you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But
Right.
I'm hearing those two are potentially wanting to go somewhere together. So maybe I'm not sure, but maybe keep that in mind.
Yeah, definitely. I also heard so Zoom Diallo just got finished with the visit this past weekend. I know Mark Pope has said something about running a dual point guard system, which is kind of interesting. So he really
which would make sense with that Rob Wright connection too.
Yes.
With him and Stokes.
Yes. So he's really wanting Zoom Diallo and Rob Wright to be the 2 point guards in that 2 point guard system. And then Stokes will be the obviously, main guy on the small forward / power forward position. And then we also have Donnie Freeman from Syracuse. He's a forward, and Kentucky's looking at him. I heard that he planned a visit to Kentucky, so we'll see what that looks like. That's really the first time we've heard his name here recently. So, I think Pope's main recruits right now are definitely Tyron Stokes, Rob Wright, and Zoom Diallo. And then I feel like fourth, we're kind of looking at Donnie Freeman. And that's really all what we know so far. Now, I don't want to get into the speculation of like this player is what Pope may be going after. These are the players that we know Pope is going after. So, just laying out the facts there. And I believe that's all we had to talk about with Kentucky basketball because, we'll see. We'll update you on our socials, like whatever commits happen. We expect this upcoming week to be filled with huge news. And honestly, by this weekend, we should know hopefully our point guard roles and maybe a Stokes commit. Who knows? Or maybe we really don't know, but maybe he'll plan another visit to Kansas. It's all up in the air. But like I said, we'll keep you all updated on socials. BG Sports Podcast, like you'll see right over there. But
the transfer portal closes not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, April 21st.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for that because I actually didn't know that.
So, Todd, do you have anything else to say about Kentucky before we move on to Louisville?
No, I feel like we're good. We can hand it on to you and Zach.
All right, Zach, go right ahead with Louisville. Tell us about their big day today and what's
all right. Yeah, our nation. I mean, look. So we got 2 commits today from Oregon transfer point guard Jackson Shelstad. He'll be a senior this coming up year, and Kansas center Flory Badunga. He'll be a junior this year. So Louisville paid I'm hearing Louisville paid a big lump sum amount to these two. It's rumored to be about $9 million between the two of them. Not sure who got what. Shelstad is a veteran point guard. He played 3 years at Oregon. He averaged 12 and 13 his first 2 years there, and then last season he only played about 12 games due to an injury. But I mean, he averaged 15. So he is known as a more of a floor general kind of guy, a defender. He'll probably be guarding the best guard on the floor every night. So, big commitment from him. And then we go over to Floyd Badunga, coming from Kansas. He is more of your tall, skinny power forward more than he is a center. So he is coming from Kansas, where in his first year, he averaged 13 points and 9 rebounds. So he'll be bringing a lot to Louisville. The only issue here is like I stated earlier, he is undersized for a center. So you'll mostly see him on offense in pick and roll positions, rolling to the basket, catching lobs. He's not your average big man that you'll see turning their back to the basket, going to get a bucket. So as you saw this past season with Michigan, Arizona, and Duke having, these big, tougher bigs, Badunga got exposed against them. So hopefully he can put on some weight this season and, maybe be able to score in some isolation movements. Now, with those two being a package deal at Louisville, Louisville's also heavily pursuing Wisconsin guard John Blackwell. He will be a senior this year. He's coming off last year where he averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. So that would also be a big get for Louisville.
Getting the number 1 and number 2 in the portal would be
in the
huge
portal,
for Louisville.
Badunga's number 1. I saw Shellstead was, I think, 16 in the portal. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that would be a huge get. So right now, those two are our only 2 commits for next season in terms of transfers. So, and we're pursuing Blackwell, and we were supposed to have a visit with San Francisco transfer Tyrone Riley. I'm not sure what the news is on that. I think that kind of got pushed to the side this weekend due to Shellstad and Badunga coming. So we should keep an eye out for that. But right now, those are technically our only 2 players for next year. Right now, undecided is Adrian Woolley and London Johnson. Technically, they're still on the roster, but neither one of them have come out and said they're 100% coming back next year. So, these are trending in the right direction. Good recruits. Last year, Pat Kelsey got a lot of flack for, our offense. We shot a lot of threes, as I stated earlier, and we were really lacking that big interior big, and mainly defense was where we lacked. So he went out and got one of the best defending guards in the portal, who's a floor general, and the best center in the portal. So, he's doing what the fans want. So hopefully it'll pay off. Other than that, really not much else to say regarding recruiting. Those were our 2 gets.
Yeah,
we got them. So
those were huge. It's obviously anytime a Bluegrass team gets any kind of big commitment, obviously the number 1 center in the portal, number 1 player in the portal, and we're going to be excited for him. It's going to be fun to watch next season. And then obviously if Stokes goes to Kentucky, we're going to be excited about that as well, as that's the number 1 recruit for this upcoming recruiting class. So so we're just happy for Louisville. That's 2 big commitments. Hopefully Kentucky gets something rolling soon. And if I find more information about the smaller schools with Murray, EKU, and WKU, we'll let you know on socials. But yeah, it's just an interesting era for the transfer portal as money's being thrown everywhere. It's basically, hey, I'll give you $10 million, come play for us at this point. And
technically, you don't even have to come play for us. You can be hurt and sit on the bench and still get paid. So we saw that a lot of Louisville. No shade. I just would have liked to see us get our money's worth. Hopefully this year we can. So
yeah, I think
y'all too.
We have, for sure. I think that's all we have for this podcast episode, because we already talked about football and baseball, and now we just talk about basketball. So we'll keep y'all updated with more portal targets and commitments and departures. I think we've gotten departures out the way, actually. So I think we're just going to focus on commitments and visits and official news only. So do you all have anything else to say before I wrap it up?
No, I think we're good. I think we really hit on everything that Kentucky has, and it seems like we hit on everything that Louisville has right now.
So, Ty, can you do me a favor and get the little claps going for a second? We just want to thank Zachary Carpenter for joining the episode today. Thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you
We really
again.
appreciate
Thanks for having
it.
me,
Thank
boys.
you for
Thanks for having me,
filling in.
boys.
And
Sir, anytime.
thank you for to the fans. Thank you for joining in and watching us this episode. If you don't mind giving us a like or follow or a subscription, we'd really appreciate it. And we will see you next episode. Thank you.
Go
Thank you
Cards.